Uh, the next case,
Yeah, Varnika's already started presenting.
uh, she is student of Dr. A. Subodh Kumar, Professor and HOD of Gandhi Medical College, Secunderabad, Madam.
Okay.
Dr. Varnika. She is presenting PBC axilla.
Good evening, ma'am. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. Respected seniors and my dear colleagues. Today I'm going to present a case of post-wound contracture of axilla. Uh, this is a case of a 14-year-old boy who is a resident of Kochi who came with the chief complaints of inability to lift the left arm since 2.5 years and history of extensive scarring over the left arm and trunk since 2.5 years. The patient gives history of scald burns 3 years back due to hot water falling on his left arm and back. The patient was then taken to a local hospital where the patient gave the treatment history that he was treated conservatively with regular dressings and medications. I would like to know the duration of treatment at hospital and home, sir, which was not given. After discharge, the patient gives history that he developed tightness over the left arm and axilla, because of which there was difficulty in lifting the left upper limb. Gradually, the patient was unable to comb hair, wash face, and reach objects at height. There was no history of any physiotherapy or splintage during the treatment period. There was no history of any surgeries like skin grafting, etc. There was no history of any specific positioning or advice regarding compression garments. And there were no other injuries in the patient, and the patient does not have any other comorbidities. This is my history, ma'am.
All right, go ahead. Go to the examination.
Coming to the examination, then for the general physical examination, the patient's vitals were stable. Patient seems conscious and oriented. He is moderately built and nourished. There is no signs of pallor, icterus, synostosis, generalized lymphadenopathy, or edema. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes. The patient was examined in standing position with exposure from front and behind, with arms by the side and arms in abduction, with the joints in neutral position. On inspection, a contracture band is seen extending from the iliac region across the left axilla onto the left arm. The skin joining the band is scarred, extending from the band to 3 to 5 centimeter onto the iliac crest, onto the lateral aspect of the back, axilla, and also extending onto the arm. There is a thick hypertrophic band which is seen in the middle. The skin seems to be having hyper and hypopigmented patches. The skin surrounding the scar appears supple. There are no signs of erythema or ulceration. Anteriorly, the axillary dome appears to be normal. Anteriorly, there is a scar which is involving the anterior axillary fold and lateral chest wall and is seen extending up to the posterior medial aspect of the arm. Axillary hair is seen to be normal in the cupula. The coming to the vertical extent, anteriorly the scar is seen extending 6 centimeter from the acromion till the prominence of the iliac crest with sparing of a 4 into 2 centimeter area near the apex. Posteriorly, the scar extends 2 centimeter from the acromion till the iliac crest, and it also extends from the spine of the scapula to the posterior axillary fold onto the posterior medial aspect of the arm. Horizontally, the scar extends from chest wall to the mid arm anteriorly, and posteriorly it extends from the posterior axillary fold onto the scapula to nearly 10 centimeter lateral to the spine, that in the midline. The scar is seen extending 1 centimeter proximal to the elbow to posterior aspect of the left arm onto the axilla, involving both the axillary folds and extending onto the lateral trunk and further down into the iliac crest. Coming to palpation, there was no local rise of temperature. The contracture is non-tender, and the scar is present as a contracture band extending from the trunk to arm as described in inspection. The scar is non-blanching, and it appears to be supple and smooth. The surrounding skin appears to be normal. I also examined the patient for the following movements: flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, internal rotation, and external rotation. it was seen that there was restriction of flexion, extension, abduction, and internal rotation. I was provided only details with the abduction degree, ma'am, which was 80 degrees. Then I would also like to examine the elbow, wrist, and finger joint movements. The pictures were not provided, and palpation of the axillary vessels. I would like to also examine the distal extremities for sensation and vascularity. Coming to the systemic examination, respiratory system, cardiovascular, CNS, and per-abdomen examination were normal. Apart from this, I would like to examine the possible donor sites. For skin grafting, both thighs, no scarring was there. And for flap covers, left shoulder area, there is a scar extending up to the lateral border of the left scapula. And on the left arm, there is a scar in the posterior medial side of the arm. Coming to the measurement of the true defect, I would like to measure the true defect on the right side of the patient if it is not involved, taking the acromion process, anterior superior iliac spine, anterior and posterior axillary folds as the landmarks. If not so, then I would like to measure the true defect on a person of the same build and stature with both the arms in abduction. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Shall I move on to diagnosis, ma'am?
Okay, just tell your diagnosis. Then we...
Coming to diagnosis, this is a class 4 post-burn contracture of the left axilla with a mature scar over the axilla, lateral aspect of the left side of the chest, left arm with restriction of movement of shoulder. Class 4 by Orchard's grading, ma'am, and class 3 by Kurtzman and Stern classification.
Okay, why have you labeled it as a class 4?
Ma'am, because in according to Orchard's classification, there are 4 grades, ma'am. So the grade 1 is involvement of anterior or posterior axillary fold only. In grade 2, it is the involvement of both with the sparing of the axillary dome. And in grade in type 3, it involves the entire axilla, and type 4, there will be scars of axilla along with the adjacent areas. Because the lateral wall and...
Agreed, but in this case, the apex of the axilla is intact.
Yes, ma'am, but posteriorly, the scar was extending onto the...
There could be scarring anywhere, surrounding area, it could be there. But
Yes,
the apex is saved.
Okay, ma'am.
The apex of the axilla is saved. Your anterior fold and your posterior fold both are involved.
Yes,
but the apex is absolutely normal, and it is visible also. So
Okay.
I think you should take it as the type 2.
Type 2.
Because that means it is severity of the contracture. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes,
if along with the entire axilla, if the surrounding skin is also contracted and it is stuck and all, then you go on to grade 4. But as
Okay.
far as axilla is concerned, the apex is spared, so it cannot be labeled as type 4.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. So in the history, you've told practically everything. Yes, you need to know about how long it took for the patient to the wounds to heal,
Yes, ma'am.
and no operative procedures were done. So looking at the condition of the scarring and the type of the contracture, what do you think would have been the depth of the burn? I asked the same question in the hand also.
Yes, ma'am. Since the patient gives history of scald burns due to following of hot water, it seems to be a superficial partial thickness burns, ma'am.
Okay, what is your name? Varnika, if it was a superficial partial thickness burn, why has the patient developed this contracture?
Because during the treatment, the patient would have had put the arms in adduction, ma'am. And because there was no physiotherapy and no history of early excision.
How does a partial thickness, superficial partial thickness burn heal? What is the difference?
Superficial partial thickness burn, it will involve only the papillary dermis area of the skin, ma'am.
Okay.
Whereas second degree burns, it will involve the deeper, that is the reticular layer of the dermis.
So how is the healing different?
In second degree, there will be scar formation more deep.
Scar formation is there in both the burns. Which heals faster?
Superficial will heal faster, ma'am. Second
Superficial dermal is going to heal very fast.
last, yes, ma'am.
Okay, within 2 weeks it's going to heal.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, even if there is a mixed area somewhere deep, then it will take 3 weeks maximum. But a deep dermal burn is going to take a very long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And the patient, the contracture generally never forms if it is a superficial partial thickness burns, unless and until the superficial dermal burn has got infected and got converted into a deep dermal.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
because deep dermal burn is going to take a longer time to heal. And what about a full thickness burn?
Full thickness burn, it will involve all layers of dermis, ma'am. There will be hard, leathery eschar that will be present. And
No, is a full thickness burn going to heal on its own?
no, ma'am, it won't heal. It will require skin grafting or additional procedure.
And in this case, no skin grafting has been done,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Yes.
So,
So,
how does a full thickness burn heal in case you have not done a grafting? Okay, even in a deep dermal, many a times there might be some raw areas or it may heal, but in a full thickness burn, you said is there a scope for healing in the raw area? How will it heal?
by secondary intention with prolonged, there will be wound contracture that will be present.
So, what is the difference between contracture and contraction?
The contract in a
Are
contract,
they the same terms or are they different?
they are different, ma'am.
How?
In contracture, the skin that is formed, the texture and the composition of the skin will be different from the normal skin. There will be the contracture or the contracted skin will be it can be hypopigmented, thickened, and it will be not pliable. Whereas contracted skin is generally similar to the
You just mentioned this about contracture only. What about contraction?
contraction. Generally, the area which is involved is the contracture, ma'am, and the surrounding skin that skin surrounding the scar that gets involved because of it is the contraction.
Okay. See, the difference is that the contraction is the active biological process. Okay. And the end result of this process is a contraction. Okay. So, a full thickness burn is going to heal by this active process of contraction, which is eventually going to lead to a contracture if it is happening across a joint. Okay,
Yes,
that's how most of the patients develop contractures, severe contractures. If it was only a deep dermal burn, there would be a hypertrophic scarring, and the hypertrophic scarring is going to cause a minimal amount of contracture. Okay, but if
Yes.
there is a full thickness burn and the patient is keeping his arms adducted, then obviously his upper arm is almost stuck to his chest. That is why there is this scarred skin across the chest and the upper arm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes,
there was a deep defect, there was a very deep burn, maybe a full thickness burn, and the child kept his arm, but this full thickness was not there in the entirety, in the entire area. The entire area was probably just a deep dermal burn which has healed. There is hypertrophy in some area, there is a minimal scarring in the peripheral region, but the arm is stuck to the chest. That means that the degree of burn was deeper, and when the child kept his arm adducted, it just got stuck and it healed in that position of contraction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that is how probably the wound goes into a contraction. So a full thickness burn is bound to heal only by contraction, by a contracture if it is across a joint. Okay, the patient is going to put it into the position of comfort and it's going to heal in that position only. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, all right. So you've told your diagnosis. Now, what about your planning? What do you plan to do now?
First, I would like to investigate the patient, ma'am. For
Okay,
routine.
1 minute. You told about the marking of the defect.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the axilla, what you have marked in the red,
Yes, ma'am.
is that the area which you are going to excise?
No, ma'am. That is just to see what is the maximum thickness area that is there, ma'am, for the contracture. The web that is there, the most thick part of it.
Why do you want to know the thickness?
Uh,
See, how do you measure the true defect?
we have
Axilla is more tricky. Maybe elbow is the simplest and neck
yes,
is also simple. Axilla is tricky because it's in two planes.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, but how do you measure the true defect?
For axilla, we can take the apex in the normal person from the apex of the axilla, ma'am, and posteriorly from the acromion, and elbow and anterior superior iliac spine as
Okay,
the
agreed. These are your reference points. But what
yes,
are you using these reference points for?
to see how much amount of defect will come, ma'am, once
So
the
how will you use these points?
um,
You're
in,
using it as reference points,
yes,
agreed. But how will you use these reference points to find out what is your true defect going to be?
in a normal person, we will measure the vertical and the horizontal distance between them, ma'am, and then we'll
You can use
calculate.
the other side in this child.
Yes, ma'am. Because the picture was not given, that's why I had put.
Okay, all
Ma'am.
right. All right. Hmm.
So that's what, ma'am. First, my first option would be to see if the right side is not involved in this patient.
Okay, then how will you measure it? How will you draw it?
Uh, in the right side, I'll take the different bony landmarks, ma'am, from the apex of the
You have taken
axilla.
the bony landmarks, but how
Yes,
will
ma'am.
you use those bony landmarks? What are you going to do?
To mark the scar extent vertically and horizontally and measure it,
That
ma'am.
means that you are planning to excise the entire scar in its entirety. The entire red thing that you have marked, you are planning to excise this whole thing so that you get a true defect. Is that what you mean? That means you are going to do
Uh,
an excisional release.
no, ma'am. My first option was. One second. My first option was to release the contractor with Z plasty and a square or a square flap plasty, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
So I would like to first mark the square flap on this patient, ma'am.
So, okay, wait. So you are going to do an incisional release, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So in this case, if you're planning flaps, then it is different. But if you're not planning a flap, you're just going to do an incisional release and create a defect. So how will you do that? You have to first mark your incision, okay? And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
you have to take points on that incision. And then you have to measure those points, the distance of those points from your bony landmarks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then take two bony landmarks and get one of that point by drawing arcs from both the bony landmarks. That's how you will get those reference points on your incisional line, and you have to mark those distances on the other side. Okay, and when
Yes,
you mark all those points, then when you join those points, you will get your true defect.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, supposing it is a contracture of the elbow, it is like this. You have marked an incisional, you are going to do an incisional release. So you have marked your incision line,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, and then you have to take fixed points on that incisional line, okay, and then you have to replicate those points on the normal side by marking that point always by taking two bony landmarks, fixed bony landmarks, bony or two fixed points, bony points or non-bony points, and then you have to get that point. So then when you join, you will get a true defect. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now go on to your this thing.
There was a hypertrophic band that was present in the middle, ma'am. So for that, I would like to excise, and the rest of it, I would like to cover with a square flap with this markings.
So you plan to do a square flap with the. Is this the same patient operated?
No, no, ma'am.
Oh, no,
This is
this is different because there
yes, ma'am.
is the skin
Reference.
is not burned. Okay. So just by doing your square flap is here, and so you are doing two. You are doing incisional release.
Yes, ma'am, for the hypertrophic scar and square flap for the contracture. And if there is any raw area, I would like to resurface it with the graft.
See, when you do the incisions that you have marked,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, for square flap is okay, but your how will your the triangular flaps and the square flaps, how will they survive the superior one if you give an incisional release on top of it? You look at the base, it's very narrow.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so you can't combine it with your incisional release.
Okay, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I don't think that you will be able to combine this square flap with this incisional release. It may not be possible. Okay, and then when you are doing this, you think that the apex is going to go into the apex?
The
Is asking whether the apex of the axilla will be shifted or it will remain the same. You know, the apex of the axilla is,
yes.
yeah.
In this case, actually, the apex of the axilla is paired already. So
It is
Yeah, so
paired,
will it
yes.
remain the same? Will it remain the same?
See, because there is a kind of trapdooring in this apex. There is a scar band which is going in the inferior aspect of the apex, you know,
yes.
at the base of the square flap. So if you just do this, how will you open that up? Okay, and in this case, because you have a contracture band going right from the chest to the upper arm, you are bound to get a defect on your chest as well as on your upper arm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and your apex is spared. So that you will have to maintain.
Yes,
You may be able, because you have extra skin, you may be able to close your defect somewhat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you may not need so much of graft as one may think.
Okay, ma'am.
So what would be a better option than doing this?
The other option is that I can take a center part, the paired skin of the axilla as a propeller flap, ma'am, and
Mhm.
graft the other areas that will be after excision, the raw areas.
Do you
Okay,
want to
but
take the, where
why
do
do
you
you
want to
want to
go?
disturb the apex? Why do you want to propel it?
Because posteriorly the scar is extending up till the scapula, ma'am. So after release, we might not be able to cover the whole part posteriorly because it is involving both anterior and posterior axillary folds.
No.
You can rob Peter to pay Paul,
Hmm.
provided the other one is rich. Here the axilla, which is virgin area, you understand?
Yes, sir.
The skin, axillary skin, central part of the axillary skin, I mean, apex of the axilla is good.
Yes,
That is
sir.
why madam is asking, why do you want to propel it? Do you have any alternate plans?
Apart from this, I can use like a regional flap, sir. If like after the scar is incised and if the
Where would you like to incise the scar?
Yeah, that's
at the point of maximum thickness, ma'am, that the band is
Is
maximum.
it the point of maximum thickness or you call it something else?
At the point of maximum contracture, where the
The
joint,
point of
the
maximum
movement,
contracture.
where there is
And then,
maximum tension.
see, in this particular case, you will have to do some kind of adjustment. You will have to give an incision, maybe use Z-plasty in the upper arm, okay,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
you have a band going right up to the elbow. You may
Yes,
be able to do small Zs and readjust the length of the scar there. But
yes,
for
ma'am.
the apex of the axilla, you need to keep it there only. You will need to give a incision in the shape of a Y, maybe, and taking this, you have to release this lower part of the band, which is in the lower half of the apex.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
also has to be released, and then you can advance it on the other side as a V. So
Okay, ma'am.
So why do we will indeed which will be grafted, some area which will be closed, because this is an extra skin. But you don't have to lift the skin.
Okay.
You can't lift it. It's all a scarred skin.
Yes.
So a square flap, I don't think will give you enough release if you do only a square flap.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
and for a release, you may have to do a release and get a Y release and then put it back as a V to get your apex properly. And then you can put graft on either sides and do a Z plasty in the distal half of your upper arm and towards the elbow and your chest also. In the lower half of the chest where there's a band, you
Yes, ma'am.
can probably do a Z plasty and get a lengthening there. You can get away with a graft there. But in the upper part of the chest and upper part of the arm, maybe you may need a graft.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what other options do you have? Supposing this entire apex was involved and
Yes,
it
ma'am.
was a grade 3, then what would you have done?
Then I would have
Same
gone.
picture, but the entire axillary apex involved.
Yes, ma'am. Then I would have gone for any loco-regional flaps, like either a medial arm flap or a parascapular flap or any perforator-based flap to cover the apex of the axilla and then grafted the remaining groin area.
So what is the advantage of using a flap? You can just release it and you can graft it. Why do you need to give a flap cover?
Ma'am, first of all, because on the joint there we need a gliding skin that should be present, ma'am, because of the mobility. And secondly, also that post-operatively, the time required for splintage will be very less. The patient can start physiotherapy exercises as soon as the flap settles in.
Yeah, so the main thing is that you need to avoid getting a giving the patient splintage for a long duration. You can avoid that if you are giving a flap into the axilla, okay, and grafting on either side. So that is the main advantage of giving a flap rather than just putting a graft, releasing and put a graft. One is just you release it wherever it's the maximum line of contraction. You just give a releasing incision, and when you give a when you are giving a releasing incision, what is the incision shape like?
Uh, for releasing incision, it should be not a straight line, either a S or a Z-shaped incision we can give.
Why Z shape?
Uh, just not a leading.
I'm talking about a normal contracture. If it's a normal contracture, you
Yes,
have to give a releasing incision. So how do you give the releasing incision? Is it only a straight line or a curved line? That's it.
no, ma'am, it should not be a straight line. We
Do
should
you
do a
do something else apart from just giving that straight line?
we should,
Monica, you understand what madam is asking.
yes,
If
ma'am.
it is a standard axilla contracture, not like this,
Okay.
with a contraction band. So, how do you release and anything you do with after releasing it at the end of the incision?
Yes, ma'am. We should do fishtailing at
Yeah.
the
So
end
why
of
do
the.
you do the fishtailing?
First of all, to prevent, because in a straight line release there is more chance of recurrence, ma'am. And fishtailing, it will also help in releasing the scar tissues more.
No, it is
Just
not
tell
that.
me what it does.
How it is helping you?
Where will you give the fishtailing?
The fishtailing should go into the normal at the junction of the normal and the scar tissue at the
Yeah.
margins of the.
Yeah. So when you are doing a fishtailing, what are you? How is it of advantage to you? You're going to put a graft on that defect.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So how is it of any advantage to you when you put the graft in this area? You're going to prevent a straight line,
Yes, ma'am.
which is going to recontract. You're going to break that straight line when you do
Yes.
the fishtailing. So if you don't want to do a fishtailing, something else you can do.
Mm,
If you don't
apart,
want to give the incision at the end of the incisions, fishtailing, what else can you do?
um, apart from
Have you heard of darting?
mm,
You can give multiple darts also. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So now that you have said that you would like to do a flap for that case if the axilla is the apex is involved.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
which is the flap which you have done personally?
For us, like I have done in our institute, parascapular flaps were
So
done.
what is it based on? Can you do
Parascap
the parascapular in this patient?
the posterior skin is involved in this patient, ma'am. It's going up to the lateral margin of the scapula.
Mhm. No, but
Uh,
the peripheral part
Based
of the
on the
scar is very
fracture
soft and supple.
yes, ma'am. So if I can find a perforator which is strong enough, and the skin is lax and supple in this patient, we can try. I can try for a parascapular flap, ma'am.
Have you marked it
Parascapular.
for this?
Yes, ma'am.